Baruch atah Asherah anatna lecha ha'olam asher kiddushani v'yitzvotav v'tzivani lehitativ l'tzitzit. Hi.
Are you singing?
Yeah, you were out with my friends.
Yeah, I took them for chores.
That's really nice of you.
They asked.
I was gonna come find them when I finished doing this. I just started.
Okay.
How are
Then you
you?
better do it.
Yeah.
I like it when you sing.
Yeah?
You look like the sea foam today.
Hey.
Hi.
Good morning, Kimmy. How are you? It's nice to see you. Shema Yisrael Asher Eloheinu Yahweh Echad. Vahafta et anat Elohecha ובכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר נחים מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך וחיה כי יחיה אלוהיך אל הארץ אשר נשבע לאבותיך לאברהם ליצחק וליעקב לתת לך ערים גדולות וטובות אשר לא בנית ובתים מלאים כל טובה אשר למילאת וברות עצובים אשר לא עשת כערים וזיתים אשר לא נטעת והלכת ושבת הישמר לך פן תשכח את יראה אשר תשכח מארץ מצרים מבית עבדים. Well, I'm glad I'm on early enough that it's before your family wakes up. That indicates to me that I've done it reasonably well. I'm glad you're having a quiet Sunday morning. Thanks, Harley. Life of Harley? Maybe you're not Harley. I'll call you Harley anyway. Thank you very much. We're going to continue reading The Descent of Inanna, about how Inanna goes into the realm of the underworld to confront her sister of the dead, because she's the sister of life and sex, and so of course she has a sister of death, to rescue her lover. And we've read this story once before, Kimmy. I don't know if you remember it. I think we were reading it in like June or July, from this book, so it's a different translation. These stories were told in different forms over thousands of years. It might even be a different source text. But anyway, it's a very old story, and it's worth rereading. So, the way that this story goes is that Inanna goes to the underworld wearing 6 sexy articles of clothing, or jewelry, or makeup, or something, and then as she goes through the 7 gates of the underworld, this is where that trope comes from, As she goes through the 7 gates, she has to remove one of them. So that's what we'll read today. On her head she wears the shugara, the crown of the steppe. Across her forehead her dark locks are carefully arranged. Around her neck she wears the small lapis beads. At her breast she wears a double strand of beads. Her body is wrapped with the royal robe. Her eyes are daubed with the ointment called Let Him Come, Let Him Come. Around her chest she wears the breastplate called Come, Man, Come. On her wrist she wears the golden ring. In her hand she carries the lapis, measuring rod, and line. So you will hear those 7 objects repeated throughout the next section of the text. Thank you, Jacob the Goat. I appreciate that. When Ereshkigal, the queen of the dead, heard this, she slapped her thigh and bit her lip. She took the matter into her heart and dwelt on it. Then she spoke. Come, Neti, my chief gatekeeper of the Kur, the land of the dead, heed my words. Bolt the 7 gates of the underworld. Then, one by one, open each gate a crack. Let Inanna enter. As she enters, remove her royal garments. Let the holy priestess of heaven enter bowed low. The measuring rod and line, yes, I don't know what it measures. I can imagine what you're implying it measures. Neti heeded the words of his queen. He bolted the 7 gates of the underworld. Then he opened the outer gate. He said to the maid, Come, Inanna, enter. There is Inanna entering into the realm of the dead. When she entered the first gate, from her head the shugara, the crown of the steppe, was removed. Inanna asked, What is this? She was told, Quiet, Inanna. The ways of the underworld are perfect. They may not be questioned. When she entered the second gate, from her neck the small lapis beads were removed. Inanna asked, What is this? She was told, Quiet, Inanna. The ways of the underworld are perfect. They may not be questioned. When she entered the third gate, from the breast the double strands of beads were removed. Inanna asked, What is this? She was told, Quiet, Inanna. The ways of the underworld are perfect, and they may not be questioned. When she entered the fourth gate, from her chest the breastplate called Come, Man, Come was removed. And Inanna asked, What is this? And she was told, Quiet, Inanna. The ways of the underworld are perfect. They may not be questioned. And when she entered the fifth gate, from her wrist the gold ring was removed, and Inanna asked, What is this? And she was told, Quiet, Inanna. The ways of the underworld are perfect. They may not be questioned. And when she entered the sixth gate, from her hand the lapis, measuring rod, and line was removed, and Inanna asked, What is this? And she was told, Quiet, Inanna. The ways of the underworld are perfect. They may not be questioned. And when she entered the seventh gate, from her body the royal robe was removed, and Inanna asked, What is this? And she was told, Quiet, Inanna. The ways of the underworld are perfect. They may not be questioned. So now, naked and bowed low, Inanna entered the throne room. Ereshkigal rose from her throne. Inanna started towards the throne. The Anuna, the judges of the underworld, surrounded her. They passed judgment against her. Then Ereshkigal fastened on Inanna the eye of death. She spoke against her the word of wrath. She uttered against her the cry of guilt. She struck her. Inanna was turned into a corpse, a piece of rotting meat, and was hung from a hook on the wall. And with that, we will pause at that cliffhanger. Of course, Inanna will come back. You don't have to worry about it. Here's the evil eye, right? Like, you've probably encountered the evil eye of some form in whatever cultural milieu you're in. It's at least a 4,000-year-old symbol. Here's the evil eye. It's surrounded by scorpions. It's pretty great. So Ereshkigal kills her sister. And I guess, spoiler alert, what we will hear described is how Inanna's death in the underworld affects the above world, and that nobody's able to have sex anymore. And it's pretty dreadful. What does it say? Let me see if I can find it.
That's for tomorrow.
That's for tomorrow.
If you want to learn, you have to come back.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it actually might not be for tomorrow. It might be in the other translation. Yeah, I can't find it. Oh, yes, here we go. Yeah, we won't get to that tomorrow, but we eat no offerings, we drift no libations, we accept no gifts, they enjoy no lovemaking, they have no sweet children to kiss. They tear the wife from the husband's arms, they tear the child from the father's needs, they steal the bride from her marriage home. Yeah, so nobody is able to love anymore because Inanna is missing. Aren't they great? They're so good. They're very good. So we'll read that tomorrow. And the next day. And the next day. Like, one of the things I think about is, like, what would your reality be if these were literally the only stories that you had ever heard, right? Like, we live inundated with stories, right? Marvel comes out with a new superhero video every 4 months or something, right? But, like, what if all of the stories in the entire world were kept at a temple in the center of your town, and they were, like, copied and memorized by, like, a select few holy people, and those were the only stories you knew. Those were the only stories that anyone you know knew, right? Like, most of the time today, if you ask someone, have you read a book that I haven't read? Like, do you know a story that I don't know? They will almost certainly say yes, even if they can't tell you the story because they've, like, read it and forgotten it, right? But, like, what would a culture be like if it had that much homogeneity, that, like, this was literally the only body of literature that you had? Be a very different kind of person. For hundreds of years, that was the case.
Thousands?
Yeah. So, yes, I'm glad we have options too. I think the world is richer for it. And I like how the options that we have today are basically all reflections of these old stories. Because how could they not, right? They're the root of the narrative tree. So, now we will say Arati, which means flame. Here's the flame. Jaya Jaya Arati Vina Vinayaka Vina Vinayaka Shri Ganesha Jaya Jaya Arati Subramanya Subramanya Kartikeya Jaya Jaya Arati Venugopala Venugopala Venuola Papa Vidura Navanita Chora Jaya Jaya Arati Venkantaramana Venkantaramana Sankataharana Sita Rama Radhe Shama Jaya Jaya Arati Gari Manohara Gari Manohara Bhavani Sankara Samba Sadashiva Uma Maheshwara Jaya Jaya Arati Raja Rajeshwari Raja Rajeshwari Tripura Sundari Mahalakshmi Mahasaraswati Mahakali Mahashakti Jaya Jaya Arati Anjaneya excuse me Anjaneya Hanumanta Jaya Jaya Arati Dattatreya Dattatreya Trimutriya Vatara Jaya Jaya Arati Adityaya Adityaya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jaya Arati Sanistaraya Sanistaraya Bhaskaraya Jaya Jaya Arati Sankarachaya Sankarachaya Advaita Gravi Jaya Jaya Arati Sadgurunata Sadgurunata Shivananda Jaya Jaya Arati Vishnudevananda 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 Jaya Jaya Arati Agastya Munaye Agastya Munaye Shriyama Priyaye Jaya Jaya Arati Ayapa Swamine Ayapa Swamine Dharma Shastave Jaya Jaya Arati Jesus Grave Moses Grave Buddha Grave Jaya Jaya Arati Muhammad Grave Guru Nanak Grave Samastya Grubho Namaha Jaya Jaya Arati Venugopala. Natatra suyobati natandrakaratam limavidyobati kutayamagni Twameva bantamidmandi sarvam tasya basya samidam vivanti Om gange kayamane kaiva govari saraswati Narmade siddhi karveri Namastitam namo namaha Twameva mata chapita Twameva bandusha saka Twameva vidya javinam Twameva sarvam mama deva Kayena vacha manasendriyarva Budyat manava prakrite sabhavad Karomi adyad sakalam parasmahi Narayanaiti sarmar payami Sarvadharmam parichayam amikam sarvadam vija Aham sva sarvapapayo mokshayami masucha Whatever actions I perform with my body, speech, mind, senses, my nature, my intellect, or my emotions, all these I dedicate to you. Thank you. To you? You feel left out? You're in a funny mood today.
I'm bored.
You're bored.
Underemployed.
You're underemployed. You're gonna render some fat?
I already did that.
You already did that? You can fix the impact driver?
It's too cold.
It's too cold. Yeah, it's winter time. It's when we do nothing. I've kind of felt like it's been winter for a whole year.
I know.
I have one more prayer for you all this morning. It's the mourner's Kadish. Right? Here's Kadish. No, this is Ishtar. Where's Kadish?
They're all the same.
They're all the same, right? Yeah, so we're reading about the descent of Inanna, but at some other time, in some other place nearby, right, rather than Mesopotamia, in northern Canaan, or rather maybe in northern Egypt. Difficult to say. I don't know my history well enough. But here's basically the same goddess, right? She rides a lion, she arouses men, she descends to the underworld, and she comes back. And that's why...
That used to be a thing women did.
Yeah.
But then Jesus was like, yo, bro, what's up?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that instead. So, Kadish means holy, right? And the old goddess is associated with death and rebirth. And so it's fitting that we say Kadish, prayer of grief and mourning, in her name. So we say these words to remind ourselves what we've lost. I'm happy to see you too, Sadhana. I hope you also have an amazing day. I'm still thinking about the death of my friend Sabina, who died a couple days ago. She was a couple years older than me, so it was rather surprising. And I don't know, right? Like, and each of these streams on a note of grief, because I think the world is very sad, and I think life is painful, and that it's worth acknowledging it kind of ubiquitously, right? That, like, if you're here, you're a suffering person, and so we acknowledge that suffering and say words together as a collective response. So, for the last 2,500 years, rather, give or take, my ancestors have been saying these words in response to death. Yid Kadal, Vid Kadash, Shema Rabba, Biama Divrachute, Vyamlich Malchute, Bechayachon, Vyomechon of Chayedikol Be Israel, Bagala, Bisman Kari, Vimru, Amen. Yehe Shema Rabba Mivarach Lialam Omei Omaya. Yitbarach Vishtabach, Vitbaar, Vitraman, Vitnase, Vitadar, Vitale, Vitalal, Shema de Kurishar Berechu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, diamiran biama v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'chol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. O say shalom b'imramav, huya ase shalom, aleinu v'chol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. O say shalom b'imramav, huya ase shalom aleinu, v'al echol Yisrael v'imru Amen. The language is Hebrew. Delena?
When I die, you'll say that for me.
I will. I absolutely will. I'll say it
I'll say it many
several.
times.
I'll say it many, many times. Yeah. So I will be here tomorrow. And we can do this all over again. And we'll find out what happens to Inanna after she dies. And until then, I hope you have a really nice day. If you like this stream, if you like what we do here in the mornings, if you find it valuable, please take a moment to check out the links in my bio. You can support the stream on Patreon or by subscribing on TikTok, or with a one-time tip, or you can say nice things in the stream. You can send little roses, right? There's 10,000 ways to do it. It's all very confusing, but the point is that this is the way that I want to spend my time with you, and unfortunately time is valuable. So I will see you all tomorrow, and I hope you have a very lovely day. Farewell.